Hello YouTube and Facebook. This is Ying Advisor, your intercultural network guru. My name is Iris, and today's vlog is a very special one. I have a very prestigious guest, Mr Graham Rowan here. He is a very successful investor and business owner and public speaker and author. He's been to United Nations and Harvard Business School, House of Parliament to give speech, and he's also the chairman of Elite Investor Club. That's how I met you.
Okay.
And Graham has got tons of experience dealing with Chinese clients and Chinese business. You've been to China a couple of times, so that's why I'm doing a little interview with him to find out what he feels about China. And thank you for coming, Graham.
Pleasure. Yeah. Well, I think I've been 4 or 5 times now. Actually, I've been a couple of times to Beijing, and then I went to Shanghai.
Yeah.
Then I went to Chongqing, which was huge.
Chongqing is the biggest city in China, and lots of people don't know that.
Exactly. When I came back, I was telling people about the biggest city you've never heard of, and of course you got the 2 rivers that come together there, we had a great time there. And then we actually drove a few hours away from there to a small village where they've restored a kind of historic village to how it perhaps used to be.
Is it like a really traditional Chinese old buildings?
That's right. That's right. So they had all the kind of ceremonies and stuff going on when we were there. And,
very cultural. Rich.
Very different. I mean, the contrast from the big city to there, that was amazing. So, we had a great time there, and each city very different. Each has a different vibe. I think Beijing, obviously, that's where a lot of it's at. But very big city, very polluted. I have to say, you kind of, as soon as you come out of the airport, your chest sort of tightens a bit, and you kind of can feel the smog, But Shanghai, in contrast, I thought was lovely.
That's where I'm from.
Oh, there you are. I didn't know that. So obviously, you choose to be from the best place in China. So that was great. Chongqing was interesting, but so big. You kind of think, wow, it just goes on forever. And then the rustic bit, it was so different, and I mean, even like the hotels we were staying in were fairly basic. So, I think if I was to choose one of the places I've been to go back to, it would be Shanghai.
Oh, thank you. So what was your first impression then? The first time you go to China, you must have lots of, the myth or people telling you about China. Was it very different from your expectation, or?
Totally. What we'd done was, I thought, how do I get into the Chinese market? So I just took a complete punt and booked a stand at a property investor show in Beijing. I think it was called the Legendale Hotel. Lovely hotel. And first day we were there, I thought I'll go and grab a bit of lunch in the break. So I go across the road from this hotel. And remember, as far as I'm concerned, I'm in communist China. And I go and I find a Starbucks. On one side of the Starbucks is the Ferrari dealership, and on the other side was, I think, the Bentley dealership. And I thought, okay, so I'm in communist China, and this feels like Park Lane to me. So I think I got a real kind of lesson in overcoming preconceived ideas, and I think because when you've reached as great an age as I have, my memories of China go right the way back to the 60s and cultural revolution and all that sort of stuff. The changes since probably, I guess, the 80s, I guess, is when it started to change, and you see now it's kind of like China's caught up and overtaken the West in many respects. It's got sort of leapfrogged into the newest technology, the newest buildings, and all the rest of it, and obviously that brings both blessings and challenges. So you've got
the pollution bit.
The pollution bit's a problem, but somebody told me at the convention in Chongqing that I think China's taken 600 million people out of poverty in the last 50 or 60 years, which that's a pretty phenomenal achievement. So it's a trade-off. The urbanisation has brought a lot of people a much higher standard of living, but also it's brought with it problems of such an accelerated growth. I liken it a bit to a company. When a company grows fast, You can't put all the infrastructure in place fast enough to keep up with it. So you're always forever firefighting problems. And I think China's experienced that with its own growth. And I guess gradually it'll get on top of it. But it's in a way a nice problem to have. If you're growing so fast that you've got to cope with those kind of issues. It's certainly preferable to stagnation or decline.
Exactly. Oh, okay. So could you tell me more about what kind of business were you doing in China, and what kind of business people you've met in there?
Sure, yeah. I mean, within Elite Investor Club, most of what we do is property related in some way. So we do a lot of what I call commercial buy-to-let property. That could include care homes, hotels, stuff like that. So we were kind of different to the crowd. Most of the people that were there at, for example, this first trade show, they were selling residential property or golden visas or something like that. So we were a little bit different, and I think it took a little while for people to catch on, because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to invest in a dementia care home today, or a burial plot or something like that.
Yeah, and so, also like half an earth away.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So we were a bit strange, but we got some good relationships going. We met some people who were going to partner with us. But I think that also led us into, and I think I've probably made every mistake in the book you could make in trying to go into a new country like China.
Really?
What
kind of mistake did you make?
Well, who do you trust? Who do you partner with? Because everybody I met wanted to be my partner.
Okay.
We can do this for you. I know all these people that would invest.
Yes.
Just trust me, And eventually we chose somebody, and we kind of signed up with them. But they did stuff like create a website. But if you don't actually know anyone that's going to come and use the website to make the investment, it's not very helpful. So the first iteration we completely messed up, and just the partner didn't deliver anything. Then I met somebody else who was actually another European expat working out there. That certainly got us further. He organised some events. I flew back over, did some private events rather than this great big public one. And we started getting a bit of traction there. But I think what I started to learn was that you really need an effective local partner. And ideally they should not just be linked to individual investors, but also perhaps have some kind of government connections as well.
Yes, government and business is very close together in China.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, you see, is very different. Over here, we tend to think of the public sector and the private sector as two alien cultures, and there the twain shall meet. Over there, it's all very interlinked, and it's almost like the government officials become the entrepreneurs and become the business owners, or they're very, very closely linked, family connection, etc. So it really does become a question of who you know, not just what you know when you're out in China.
And also, I think for a British business, you have to be compliant with the British business law as well, so that adds on extra restriction, I think. Yeah,
I always tend to be somebody who begs forgiveness rather than asking permission. So I tend to kind of just go headlong into something, try and see if I can make something happen, and then we'll sort out all of the legal and compliance stuff if we have to. I think the main thing I found with China was, well, first of all, I have to say, the culture. I was amazed. To me, they were more entrepreneurial than people I meet in Britain or America. Really buzzing. The place was, everybody was hustling, everybody was trying to make deals, everyone was trying to build businesses. The huge entrepreneur culture, which is, again, an amazing turnaround if you think of China's history. Though equally, if you take a long view of China, it was the world's sort of leading economic superpower.
When we had the empire.
That's right. So everything goes in cycles, I guess. Britain had our empire in the sort of 1800s, and then America had her empire, and so now perhaps we're heading back towards the
Goes
Chinese
around,
Empire.
comes
Yeah, that's right. But it was no. What impressed me, because I love, for example, we have a team based in Singapore. I love going to Singapore. We do events there 2 or 3 times a year. And again, you've got that tremendous buzzy culture, lots of expats, ambitious, clever people making stuff happen. But I found that in China, and you know, it was such a revelation to me.